So this morning, because of the video that the Epoch Times is selling, the Antichrist video. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't watch it necessarily, but it is a video of deception. And if you pay them money, you are actually participating in the deception. This is the reason why I'm not going to rent the movie, buy the movie, or whatever, because it would be participating in the deception. So rather than do that, I'm going to use a scripture to defeat the lie. And so, what is the beast? We'll start in Revelation 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, we know that the 7 heads is the, I forgot what the name of the, I guess it's called the Augustus dynasty. Let me go look just to make sure. I try to get everything set up, but questions. Oh, it's called the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Okay, and the Julio-Claudio dynasty had essentially 7 heads. I've gone over that before. What am I doing? Oh, let's go back here. And 10 horns, and upon his crown, upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Now, the name of blasphemy, it's a name. And I have pointed out in many videos that these names are replacement names for Jehovah, to replace Jehovah with foreign idols. Names of blasphemy, or a name of blasphemy. And the beast was like unto a leopard, and his feet was that of a bear. And see, what he's pointing out is these beasts are all wild, unclean beasts that this beast is like. It was like unto a leopard, and his feet were like of a bear, and his mouth is the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power. What dragon is that? And do they worship the dragon? Let me show you something here. The flag of Wales. This is a perfect example. I can show you many, and I've shown you many examples before, but this one right here is a great one. See that? The red dragon. And you can look at the red dragon at the Vatican. There it is right there. There's your red dragon at the Vatican. Okay? And there are some people who get this and understand this, and even Protestantism knew this once upon a time, but they lost their way because they're rooted in Catholicism and the ways of Catholicism. They do what the Catholics do because they're rooted in Catholicism. They're not rooted in the church. And I'm sorry, they're not rooted in the truth. And so I'm going to go line by line and see if we can find proof of what this beast is. Right? But wait a minute, hold on, I almost missed something. This is why you got to be real careful. You got to be real careful, folks. The beast? Nope, not just any beast. A therion, a wild beast. Wild beast. And all of these beasts are described as unclean, wild beasts. Now, let me show you something. Call unclean or common. Hope it pulls up. Alright. Acts 10 verse 28. What's going on here? I have to put this. Alright, let's see if that works better. I got bad reception here. I don't know what's going on. Anyway. Let's go to Strong's. See if that pulls up. It's getting worse. Alright. Verse 9, on the morrow when he went for a journey, he drew nigh to a city, and Peter went upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour, and he became very hungry and would have eaten. But while they had made ready, he fell into a trance, and he saw the sky open, and certain vessels descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, tied at the four corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts, terapus of the earth, and wild beasts. Folks, I want you to look. You saw wild beasts right here in Revelation. Right here. Wild beast, therion. And then you see this. Why did they just use beast in Revelation 13 and wild beasts for the same word in Acts 10 and verse 12? You see the connection now? And wild beasts and creeping things and fowls of the air. And then there came a voice to him saying, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Master, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spoke unto him again a second time, What Elohim has cleansed, that shall you not call common. Now, only those who he has cleansed you shall not call common. And this was done 3 times, and the vessel was then received again into the sky. And so, what did Peter do? And to verse 24, And the morrow after he entered into Caesarea, And Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And Peter was coming in, and Cornelius met and fell down at his feet and reverenced him. But Peter pulled him back up, saying, Stand up, I myself am also a man. And he talked with him, and went in, and found many that were there had come together. And he said unto him, I know how it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another race. But Elohim has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Well, that's not what was said. No, so we got lost in mistranslation here. It says, you shall not call that which he has cleansed common or unclean. Therefore came I unto you without gainsaying or without contradiction. As soon as I was sent, I asked therefore, for what intent have you sent me? All right, and then Cornelius said, 4 days ago I was fasting until this hour. At the 9th hour I prayed in my house. And I behold a man standing before me in bright clothing. And said, Cornelius, your prayer is heard, and your alms are had in remembrance in the sight of Elohim. Send therefore to Joppa, and call here Simon, whose surname is Peter. He is lodged in the house, and one Simon, a tanner by the seaside, who, when he comes, shall speak unto you. Okay. So what was the point here? The wild beasts are Gentiles. And what did Cyril the Catholic say? I think it's in Cyril's 15th catechetical lecture. Cyril the Catholic. Now, I believe it starts in verse 10. Might even start in verse 9. I think it starts in verse 9. And what shall come to pass after this? He says next, when therefore you see the abomination of desolation which was spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place. That was already happened. That happened in the year 70 on the Roman calendar. And this is long after that. But this guy, Cyril, is projecting a delusion. What is a delusion? A delusion, the definition of a delusion is believing something that has easily been proven wrong. Let's see if I can... delusion, let's look it up. Delusion. Characterized by holding idiosyncratic beliefs or impressions that are contradicted by reality or rational argument. Reality proves that the abomination of desolation occurred on the year 70 on the Roman calendar. And to hold idiosyncratic beliefs or impressions that are contradicted by this reality is typically a symptom of a mental disorder. That means the vast majority of the world who are Christians hold this idiosyncratic belief that is contradicted by what already happened. Because of one man. This man. that him that reads understands. And so he's reading from Daniel the prophet. So he's adding his own words in here. You'll see it here in just a minute. Say unto you, lo, here is the Christos, or lo, there, believe it not, hatred of the brethren makes room next for the Antichrist, as he says. For the devil prepares beforehand the divisions among the people, that he who is come may be acceptable to them. But as he says, and I quote, God forbid that any of Christ's servants here or anywhere should run over to the enemy. Now, listen carefully. He says, writing concerning this matter, the Apostle Paul gave a manifest sign, saying, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away, and that man of sin be revealed. As I pointed out in my previous videos, we'll go to that particular chapter. Falling away. Paul was speaking of the fall of Jerusalem in his day. And remember, I keep telling you that he never said Jesus Christ, ever. So we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Moshiach, Yahushua, and by our gathering together unto him, that you be not so soon shaken in mind, and be troubled neither by spirit nor by word, nor letter from us, as if at this point in time, as the day is now. It is not. As that day of Moshiach is now. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, or shall not come, or for beforehand comes a, does it say falling away? A revolt. A revolt. Why did this revolt happen? The reason why Cyril didn't think it happened yet was because he failed to read history. And for him to actually tell the truth would destroy his own narrative. The revolt was the great Jewish revolt against, it started with Caligula. And I have done some videos. You can look back in my video library and you can find them. It started with Caligula. Caligula caused the Jewish revolt by ordering his graven image as Zeus, aka Jupiter, to be placed in every synagogue in the entire realm of Rome, including the temple in Jerusalem. This is a well-known fact today. It caused the Jewish revolt. And Paul points out that it was this act that caused the Jewish revolt. The revolt comes beforehand. That man of sin revealed the son of destruction. He is the one that starts the process of the destruction of Jerusalem. And he opposes and exalts himself all that is called a god or an Elohim or an idol. And he did. You can look it up on Wikipedia all day long. Or that is worshipped. So that as an idol or as a god sits in the temple, showing himself that he is a god. And he did. He had his graven image as Zeus placed in every temple and synagogue in the entire realm of Rome. And that caused the great Jewish revolt. Wait a minute. I got the wrong word here. Where is it? Revolt. Look, all you got to do is look up the Great Jewish Revolt and what caused it. Okay? Now, so we go back to this deception is very calculated, is very carefully done. But today I'm going to do my best to use a scripture to uncover it, to reveal the deception. And as you notice, Cyril projects it into the future when it was in the past. Exalts himself, all that is called God or is worshipped, so that he sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is a God. Do you remember when I was with you, and I told you these things, and now you know that which restrains to the end must be revealed in its own season, for the mystery of iniquity is already at work. How can that be already at work in the time of Paul, and then it waits until the time of the end? No. And Yonah said, anti-Moshiach is already here. I guess I have to go there as well. And he did not say Antichrist because Paul spoke Hebrew. Yonah spoke Hebrew. He was a Galilean. He did not speak Greek. Okay. Where is this? I can't even spell. There we go. The spirit of anti-Moshiach, which he has heard of, is coming, and now is already in the world. Hold on. Let's dig a little deeper. Where is my King James at? There we go. All right. So he never said Jesus Christ. Every spirit that does not confess that Yahushua Moshiach is come in the flesh is not of Elohim. And this is the spirit of anti-Moshiach, whereof you have heard that it should come. But he's saying he's already here. Already there. And what do they tell you? The Antichrist, they say the Antichrist is yet to come. Yonah said he's already there. Anti-Moshiach is already there. So, as you can see, Yonah says he's already here, but this guy says he's yet to come. Now, Cyril was hundreds of years after Yonah. So who's telling the truth here? Is it Yonah or is it Cyril? Well, I think that was a rhetorical question. You should know the answer. Now listen. So he's quoting Paul, for the mystery of iniquity does already work, only that he that restrains now to be taken out of the way. And then shall the lawless one be revealed, whom he claims the Lord Jesus. But the truth is Israel's Moshiach will slay with the breath of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming in, even him whose coming is working after of Satan, with all the power of signs and lying wonders, and with all deceit of unrighteousness for them that are perishing. And then he says, I quotes Paul in the 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 3 to 10, now is the falling away, for men have fallen away from the faith. No, that's not what Paul was talking about. Paul was talking about the Jewish revolt. And some preach the identity of the Son with the Father, and others dare say that Christ was brought into being out of nothing, and formerly the heretics were manifested, but now the church is filled with heretics in disguise, for men have fallen away from the truth and have itching ears. Paul was talking about the great Jewish revolt. He's talking about something else. All right. I don't want to read his whole thing. Okay, so this, therefore, is the falling away. He's wrong. I proved to you. Paul explained what the revolt was and what it was caused by. His explanation is of no value, serves no purpose, does not have Paul's backing in his own words. And the enemy is soon to be looked for. Well, Jonah said he's already there. But this guy here, Cyril, is still looking for him. And meanwhile, he has in part begun to send forth his own forerunners, that he may then become prepared upon the prey. Look therefore to yourself, O man, and make safe your soul. The church now charges you before the living God, as he says. She declares to you the things concerning Antichrist before they arrived. What? Jonah said Anti-Moshiach is already here. And this guy says Antichrist is yet to arrive. Whether they will happen in your time, we do not know, or whether they will happen after you, we know not. Well, you should know, unless, of course, you're of the false narrative. But it is well knowing that these things you should make yourself secure beforehand. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting, this false narrative. As he claims the true Christ, which is the Christos, is the false one, the only begotten Son of God, as he says, but unfortunately, their Gog and Magogish idol, whose name is Got, is a false idol. It says, comes no more from the earth. If anyone makes false shows in the wilderness, go not forth. And so he's deceitfully using the words of Moshiach in Matthew. Look no longer downward towards the earth, for he, as he says, the Lord descends from heaven, not alone as before, but with many, escorted by tens of thousands of angels, nor secretly as the dew of the fleece, but the shining forth as openly as the lightning. For he has said himself, as the lightning comes from the east and shines even into the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. And again, they shall see the Son of Man coming upon the clouds with power and great glory, and he shall send forth his angels to sound the trumpet, and the rest. But as when formerly he was to take man's nature, and as he says, God was expected to be born of a virgin. So now they're calling him God. You see, the devil created prejudice against us by craftily preparing among idol worshippers fables of false gods begetting and begotten of women. Yes, including the Jesus that was born in 834, or was it 830 BCE? How about that, Cyril? And that falsehood having come first, the truth as he supposed might be disbelieved. So now, since, as he says, the true Christ is to come a second time, the adversary makes occasion on the expectation of the simple, and especially of them of the circumcision. And now he points the finger at the Jew. When? When? We just read, it is a Gentile. Wild beast. We just read Peter's interpretation of the wild beasts on the sheet as being Gentiles. Especially of the circumcision of the Jews, brings in a certain man who is a magician, and most expert in sorceries and enchantments of beguiling craftiness, who shall seize for himself the power of the Roman Empire, and falsely style himself as he says, Christ. By this name of Christ, he says, deceiving the Jews, who are looking for the anointed. The Jews are indeed looking for the Moshiach. You see how desperately wicked and deceitful this man is? But they're not looking for Jesus Christ. The Jews are looking for the real Moshiach. They just don't know what his name is yet. But when he comes, they will embrace him immediately. As I've showed you in the last several videos, they will. And seducing those of the Gentiles by his magical illusions. But this aforesaid Antichrist, as he says, is to come when the time of the Roman Empire shall have been fulfilled. What does Paul say? Paul says exactly the opposite. Now, this right here, this number 12, if you hold on to what Paul says and what the Moshiach says in Luke 21 and Matthew 24, I believe. I'm going to provide you with, you need to save this, you need to write it down somewhere, keep it in your wallet, in your pocket, so that whenever you are confronted with the false narrative, the Antichrist narrative, you are able, you know where it came from. It came from right here. In the 15th catechetical lecture of Cyril, you will see where the deception started. It starts very small, deceitful, and crafty, starting in verse 9, and then it comes down to verse 12, and it goes into full-blown opposition to what Paul said. Paul, the only apostle to the Gentiles. The reason why Cornelius was brought to Peter was so that Peter could understand that there were certain Gentiles that were going to be cleansed and grafted in among the branches, just like Paul said in Romans 11. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hold on to this 12th verse of Cyril's 15th catechetical lecture, and we're going to now go to Romans 11. Now what we are going to do is we're going to read, starting in verse 25. Who is he talking to? Well, wait a minute. Now we're going to start a little earlier. I'm going to start in verse 17. Now, if some of those branches were broken off, and you, Roman, being a wild olive. Now we know who the wild beast is. Rome. Were grafted in among them and with them, partaking jointly. Do you see that? Partaking jointly with them, like Cornelius was one of those. Partaking jointly, he was cleansed as a Gentile and became a Israelite in the Torah of Moshiach. Jointly with them partakes of the root and the fatless of the good olive tree. You're a wild olive, not a wild olive tree. You're a wild olive, grafted in among them, partaking of the root and fatness of the good olive tree. Do not boast against the branches. What did Cyril just do? What did we just witness? He accused the Jews. He boasted against the Jews, is what he did. Because if you boast, you don't bear the root, but the root bears you. You will say then the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off. And you now stand by faith, be not high-minded, but fear, because if Elohim did not spare the natural branches at all, he will not spare you either. He will not spare you either. Look at the goodness and severity of Elohim on them which fell severity, but toward you goodness, if you continue in this goodness, otherwise you also shall be cut off. Boasting against the branches is what Cyril did. And they also, not if, it says before, before they come back on from unbelief, they're going to be grafted in. Before while they are still in unbelief, Ezekiel 39 shows this. Then they shall know Jehovah when he comes to save them. He's going to save them first, and then they're going to believe. And no matter, none of these false narratives that you have heard out there agree with that. Because Jehovah, Elohim, is able to graft them in again. Because if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary, or on the other side of, besides nature, into a cultivated, a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which are the natural branches, be grafted in to their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, you Romans, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness, partial blindness, is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Now, what did he say? He says, but this aforesaid Antichrist is to come when the time of the Roman Empire shall have been fulfilled. What did Paul say? Paul said, the blindness in part has happened unto Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. It's the same thing. And what happens after that? And so all Israel shall be saved, because it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away unholiness from Jacob. For this is my covenant with them, when I shall take away their sins. So what Cyril is saying, he is saying this coming Antichrist is going to come when the time of the Roman Empire is fulfilled. Paul says the Moshiach is going to come when the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Now, people will say, well, that's not worded like that. I'll show you where it is worded like that. Let's see here. It is in Luke 21, I think. If it's not in Luke 21, it is in Matthew 24. Let's go Strong's. Now, destruction of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles. This is after they fell by the edge of the sword in 70, the year 70 on the Roman calendar. Shall be trodden down by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles, aka the Romans, comes to an end, is fulfilled. So Paul did say it right, you just didn't read it right. Paul did say it right, Cyril just didn't read it right. Cyril said, this aforesaid Antichrist is to come when the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. When the time of the wild beast is fulfilled. When the time of the Israel's rise must come again. And the end of the world is now drawing near. And he says that these 10 kings of the Romans, reigning in different parts perhaps, but of all the same time, and after the 11th, the Antichrist, by whose... Listen, I have showed you in previous videos who the 10 kingdoms were. They were in medieval times. I showed you who the exact names of the Julio-Claudian era, the 7 heads and the 10 horns were. It's not hard to look it up, folks. That is past tense. That's not future tense. But this guy is claiming it's future tense. And 3 that the 11th did humble, they were the Vandals, the Heruli, and the Ostrogoths. That's right, because the Ostrogoths lived in Italy. That is provable history. But see, I want you, folks, to write this down. Where it says, the aforesaid Antichrist is to come when the times of the Roman Empire is fulfilled. Both Paul and the Moshiach said, or you can use the words of Paul and the Moshiach to show that when the time of the Gentiles comes to the end, that the real Messiah is going to come. Look, Luke 21. What happens when the time of the Romans come to the end, is fulfilled? What happens next? There are going to be signs in the sun and in the moon and the stars and upon the earth. Tribulation upon the Gentiles. The Gentiles! distress upon the Gentiles means tribulation upon the Gentiles. Because there was tribulation upon Jerusalem. So now there's going to be tribulation upon the Gentiles. With perplexity and the Mediterranean Sea waves a-roaring. Men's hearts failing them for fear, for looking after those things which are coming upon the earth, for the powers of the sky will be shaken. See the sixth seal. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with the power and great glory. And when they shall see these things come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for you know your redemption draws near. Whose redemption draws near? And so all Israel shall be saved. Verse 26 of Romans 11. For there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn unholiness from Jacob. Because this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. This is the time that the Moshiach is coming to take away all Israel's sins. And every one of us who are Gentiles should want to be grafted in among Israel, because that means our sins will be taken away too. Concerning the gospel, Israel might be your enemies for your sakes, but they are the elect. The eloge, they are the select, according selection, as they are the beloved for the patriarchs' sakes. That's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for the gifts and calling of Elohim cannot be changed. Now, mark of the beast. Now we know that the beast is Roman. What is the Roman mark then? What is the mark of the Vatican? What is the emblem? Let's go look. Let's first of all look at what emblem means. Emblem is a distinctive badge of a nation. Let's go then to Revelation 13. And let's go down here. The first beast was the one that destroyed Jerusalem. The second beast was that thing that came after it, the Christian beast, with two horns on its head. One of them was the Vaticanus, the so-called papacy at the Vaticanus. The other one was the Justinian one, where all the Orthodox groups came out of. So all the Orthodox groups, Egyptian, whatever, came out of the Justinian horn, and all the Protestant groups came out of the papacy horn. They're all of the same horn. I have beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke like a dragon. How did he speak? Why did he speak as a dragon? Because one thing that the dragon does, the dragon is the, what do you call it? The accuser of Israel. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causes the earth that dwell in them to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Whose deadly wound was healed? Who's the one that had a deadly wound? Well, according to my recent studies, it appears that was Nero. The first beast came out of Rome. The second beast comes out of Rome too. So everybody has to go and bow down and reverence the guy who lives in the Vatican, where the first beast came from. You see? And he does great wonders. Now remember, this beast has two horns, as he makes fire to come down from the sky and the earth in the sight of men. I have done videos on that. It's the Orthodox group that does that. And it's fake and false, and it makes a mockery of the truth. You'll hear about it when it comes, I think it's springtime. I already did a video on it this past spring. And deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those, not miracles, signs, in which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying, them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image of the beast. Not to the beast, of the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. So, this image, made by, I believe it was Gregory. He had, what's his name? Leonardo da Vinci make this image. And it's actually an image of Zeus. Now, this first beast, the one that destroyed Jerusalem, you must remember, trying to remember who started it. I believe it was Caligula started it. Remember, he was the one who made the graven image of himself. And the image that Titus placed at the temple grounds after they burned the temple in Jerusalem was the graven image of Zeus. And I've done videos showing you that the image of Jesus is in fact the image of Zeus. This is how they do it. They take their image, their graven image, with the facial look-alike, with the long hair like Zeus. This is all what all these kings, especially Caligula, who did this. Made an image of the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. That would mean the previous Julius Claudio, dynasty. That beast. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And that the image of the beast could talk. They've made movies making this image talk these days, haven't they? And then this guy, this beast, caused as many that would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Well, they did that. This two-horned beast set out to kill every Jew that they could find, and they have done it over and over and over again for the past almost 2,000 years. Now watch this. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive, no, not to receive. You see receive. You see that King James says receive, but what does it say? To give. To offer. That's the opposite of receive. To give, offer, or to put or place. How do you place a mark? Now, remember, now a mark is an emblem, okay? It is a symbolic object, a distinctive badge of a nation, organization, or family. America's national emblem is the bald eagle. Now, you can make a mark with your hand. The Christians do it all the time, and they do it with their right hand. They cross their fingers. Oh, let me cross my finger. Or they put it on their head, on their forehead, on Ash Wednesday, like this. All right. There it is. There it is. It doesn't have to stay there. But those who refuse to put the cross on their foreheads would be killed, or they were not allowed to eat or buy and sell. That's right, the Jews were not allowed to trade. They had to go into usury business. That's right, folks. Says they were not allowed to buy and sell. Okay, now a mark. What is a mark? It is a charagma, but when you look at it, it says sculpture, engraving, a stamp, a sign, or a sign. What do they call this today? What is that? Do you know what that is? That's a peace sign. Now I'm not going to cross my fingers, because that would put me in bad light. I'm not going to do that. That's a sign, right? Peace sign. Well, so is crossing your fingers. A sign. And because as many would not worship at the image of the beast should be killed. How many Jews have they murdered over the years for refusing to go to Sunday church and bow down to that graven image that they have in every Christian house of worship today? Remember what delusion means, folks. When the truth is staring at you dead in the face, you refuse to believe it. To give a mark, to make a sign, to make a sign in the right hand, that is crossing your fingers, or in their forehead, that is what they do on Ash Wednesday, so that no man might buy or sell, saving he had the mark or the name of the beast. Or the name? Or the name. The name is Jesus. X-E-S-U-S. The X-E-S is similar to the 666 in Greek. The number of his name. The name of the beast, or the number, X-E-X-S. If you are Greek, you'll know exactly what this means. Of his, autos means of his name. The number has to be in his name. And it is X-E-S-U-S. It is this guy who is crossing his fingers. He is making the mark with his right hand, and he has the mark the mark of the beast on his Bible. If you have the mark of the beast on your Bible, get rid of it, folks. But they put it on the forehead. Or his name. X-E-S-U-S. And J-E-S-U-S is the same thing. Don't delude yourself. The J version didn't show up until the 1600s. Before that it was X-E-S-U-S. Now, here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man. Now we know It is the number of his name. So when he says this is the number of a man, it's the number of the man's name, which we read right here, or the number of his name. But people immediately forget this, reject this, and go for number of a man. It's a number of a man's name. And his number is chi, ji, and stigma. His number is, I'm done with this, chi, ji, which sounds like a J, or, well, the chi sounds like a J. Chi, ji, and stigma. Watch. There it is. X, E, S. In cursive, X, E, S. That's it. And yes, even Codex Vaticanus can see it. There it is. Now, this is what happens, folks. This is what happens when you don't use the truth. It is a number of a name. Any other way of putting it, you won't find the truth. It's false. This is what these people have done. They turn it backwards and turn it to sex. If you turn it backwards, if it's not associated with a name, you've done it wrong. That's foolishness. No, it is XES, and it is part of a name. The only name that I know of where XES is this one. And he makes a mark with his right hand, and he calls, and people on Sunday church puts the mark on their forehead. How much evidence do you need, folks? How much more evidence do you need? Are you still going to be deluded? I have given you ammunition, or I've shown you ammunition that was given to you by the Mashiach, by Paul, by Peter, by Jonah. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to straightway forget about it and then watch that Antichrist movie and those will come and they will deceive people with the Antichrist movie because they refuse to read the words of the prophets, and because they refuse to read the words of the apostles, and because they refuse to read the words of Moshiach himself, and instead followed Catholic doctrine. So when I told you that all these Protestant churches who follow this Catholic Antichrist doctrine, that makes them all Catholics. All of them. Are you a Catholic too? Are you going to be one of those who comes and fights against the Moshiach? I hope not.